Hello friends, and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Align Plans. Now we're face to face once again. I know that we rushed into 2025 fairly quickly. I know that we've done a quick little update on how the actual planner system that we have set up is going, but I thought that it would also be equally important for us to kind of reflect back on 2024 and have these takeaways of what are some of the things that we have actually learned from having all of these different planner systems set up. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to go through this in quick fire method. I will show you some examples where it's relevant, but I have 12 things that I have learned from the previous year just by having my planner system. So let's get started. And first of all, if we've never met, my name is Meshi and I'm the person behind Align Plans. We chat a couple of times a week on this channel, but we're all about minimalist planning, journaling, stationery, all the things related to the journaling and stationery world. But we're trying to do this with a little bit more intentionality when we're not only paying attention to our mental health, but we're also not overly accumulating things just so that it can collect dust. It's all about actually allowing it to make our lives a little bit better. So if that sounds good and if those are your values, then you should definitely consider subscribing. Let's start with number one, just because I think it's going to be a good one. Let's talk a little bit about notebooks. I think that for me, 2024 was one of those years where notebooks had really had their moment. I created a whole series around them, and I think that that series will actually continue into 2025. But basically with notebooks, I found that they are essentially, for me personally, they were on-the-go idea magnets. I find that whenever I have my notebook with me, whether I set it up as a commonplace book or I give it a specific job, I always found that if I have the notebook with me, I'm more than likely going to be capturing my ideas. And sometimes it comes in unexpected waves. Sometimes I captured things that really brought me in awe. Sometimes I captured video ideas. Sometimes I captured just inspiration that I allowed to kind of come in, and I allowed it to inspire me to kind of do something different and something better. Second thing that I have learned in 2024 is having my journal, having a journal that is on the go. In my case, it was actually the Hibino from Midori. This little guy came with me along with my traveler's notebook. I would take that with me to the pool. I would take that with me on like short little trips or like Sunday brunch. And I found myself actually looking forward to the journaling session. I allowed it to become messy, and I allowed it to kind of just bring all the things with me that, you know, like if I picked up a receipt or I picked up something, I allowed that to kind of become part of the journaling process. So, and also, I also found that once I had my journal with me, I was more than likely to actually use it than if I just left everything at home and I waited until I would get home to just kind of write about my experience. Number three is all about, now this will be a little bit more controversial, not really. I found that when it comes to inks and fountain pens, it's a lot easier and more sustainable for me. And I mean, I know it sounds logical, but tell me how many times have you bought a full bottle of ink? Because at the very beginning of my planning and my journaling in my stationery collection, I would buy full bottles of ink. And if you look behind me, you can kind of see it, that there's like a little stand with all full-size bottles. And I still do that sometimes, but I shifted a lot more towards actually buying just sample size inks, because then it allowed me to kind of try out what is working and what is not working. And if I really, really love it, and I found myself repurchasing the sample sizes, only then that I would actually buy the full size bottle. Number four is actually relates to this month's challenge that I am doing, that I kind of challenged myself to utilize all the things that I have, specifically stickers and washi tapes. I'm really challenging myself to actually just utilize my current stash and then collect all of the empty sheets so that I can kind of look back and see how well I've done or how much I've actually used up of my current collection before I'm buying something new. This is also a really nice reflection for me to see, okay, which are the ones that which style of stickers am I going to be repurchasing, or which one was just something that was seasonal and I'm happy to let it go. Now let's talk about planners. And I know that most of us have gone through the 2025 lineup. We've done a quick little check-in just to see how our planner system is currently working. And I have found that in reflecting, there's actually still, and I haven't told you about this, there's still a journal that I haven't actually touched. I hate to admit it. It's one of those things where I just haven't really felt inspired to dive into it. Me thinking about it kind of feels a little bit heavy to even start like backfilling it. So there's a good chance that I might be letting go of that. But the thing is that sometimes we buy all of these planner systems or journals because we're thinking that we already have a specific job for it. But when it comes right down to it and we get right to the nitty-gritty of it, we're actually not really using it. So for 2025, my big takeaway from the last year is that if I have a duplicate of something, if I'm duplicating certain information, then that means that one of those systems can easily be let go of and left behind because there's just really no purpose for it. And it's okay. By the way, I'm happy to tell you that it's okay if your planner system changes. For me personally, it has to go to the Hobonichi Han. I have it. As you can tell, if you have watched my 2025 lineup, you notice that I didn't include this into the lineup because I just wasn't exactly sure if I really want to dive into it. I might still go in and actually update it just so that I can confirm to myself that it's something that I don't really want to use, or just use it as a junk journal. I'm not exactly sure. But as of right now, it's completely blank. I haven't used anything in here. I haven't updated it. I haven't backlogged anything. There's literally, it's completely blank. And the reason for that for me is just simply because I just haven't felt inspired to want to update it. And having a smaller system where I can also plan and journal in the traveler's notebook just felt a lot more hands-on and just a lot easier to kind of manage. Now let's talk about number 7. Let's talk about number 6. So this relates to a spread or a template or the way that you plan. So for me, I have a certain way of setting up my Hobonichi weeks, for example. I have a certain way that I like to set up my Hibino, and I like to not really change up that setup too much, only because I know that that layout really works for me based on how I like to plan and how I like to journal. Now, does that make it kind of redundant? In a way, yes, but unfortunately, my brain really loves that level of consistency. And having taken the time to actually look back on the previous year, I really found that there is a level of consistency and familiarity for me. I'm specifically referring to now how I use my Hobonichi weeks. So if I look back, this is now this year's, this is the 2025 layout. And I find that usually the way that I kind of like to set this up is that there's some planning happening here. There's at least about 2 or 3 categories on the side, but then that inner side is always set aside for me to write the word of the week, a phrase, an affirmation, something that is very important to me that will kind of move into the next year. And see, you can tell that there's at least 2 weeks that I didn't really do that. And to me, when I'm looking at this spread, it definitely feels incomplete. So now moving into this week, I most definitely have it. The word of the week is new path. And even though the style of planning in here hasn't changed significantly, adding these familiar elements into the way that I plan definitely kind of keeps things cohesive, and it essentially adds to the way that the style of planning that I like to do and the style of journaling that I like to do. So it's something that I kind of found that has been really helpful for me to reflect back on, that there's some elements that I add in there because it feels familiar and it feels consistent. Let's talk about number 7. Your system can and might change, and that's okay. So I just mentioned to you a moment ago that I might not actually end up using this guy right here, and that's okay. Me thinking about it and me thinking about even wanting to update this on a daily basis, if it feels restrictive and if it feels like it's so much work and the information is being duplicated into other systems, that might be an indication that this might not be for me. Now, I mentioned to you that I will probably end up actually updating this just because I want to interact with it in order for me to really verify and create a level of validation for myself that it's not working for me. So I will try my best to actually update this. If it's not working, I'm happy to let this go, because at the end of the day, it's just one of the booklets that I purchased. It's one of the investments which still ends up being, even though I'm sad that it might not work out for me, but it's also okay that I have that, it's fine that I have that level of awareness of what's working and what's not working for me. That brings me to number 8. Number 8 is talking about the 5-year journaling. 5-year journaling, so having a journal that has all 5 years included in there, it might be a really good idea. For me, it was an excellent idea, and honestly, I will be honest with you, I was really nervous about getting this. This is actually from Midori. This was their like limited edition setup. It's really beautiful, and what I actually love about this is, in comparison to the Hobonichi, you get one page per day, so you don't have that extra blank page for any memory keeping. And now some of you might hate this because some of you might want to add actually pictures and things like that in there, but the thing is, we already have this, and we already have the traveler's notebook. So in a way, part of me kind of feels like, now I have to add pictures in here too, or now I have to add memorabilia in here too. So I kind of like the fact that I started carrying this and I started updating this. Yes, there has been times when I would have to kind of go back about a week and update it, and that's totally fine. But I am working on creating, you know, a day-to-day practice where I actually update this, because it only takes me about a minute or so to actually update that current day. So as of right now, I'm fully up to date, because right now I'm filming this on the 22nd and this is updated. And I'm so proud to also, it's really cool. It's such a cool concept to be able to kind of look back on the previous year and what you were doing right on the 22nd or right on the 21st. So I challenge you to get a 5-year journal. My only thing would be is if you have a hard time committing to something, get it as an A6 size, because you might find that actually it works a little bit better for you. Let's talk about number 9. Now this is more speaking on like really useful accessories that you can get within your planner setup. So some of the most useful things that I have invested in the last year has actually been, and I mean, I didn't think that this would be as useful as it is right now. It has to go to these small little pouches and travel accessories. This one is from Superior Labor. There's another one that I have that's from LL Bean. They're both useful. I traveled with both of them. I love both of them for different reasons. But at first I just thought that this was like a pencil pouch, but then it turned into like the most useful thing that I just kind of throw into my backpack, especially when we're traveling, especially on road trips. I can't even, just because then everything is compartmentalized. So if I wanted to just do a little bit of journaling or a little bit of planning or a little bit of an update of something, I would literally only have to pick this, just grab it out of my bag. And it also created a little bit of separation between all the other things that I had in my backpack versus just my planning or my journaling supplies. So I highly recommend something like this, maybe not from Superior Labor. If you love Superior Labor, then definitely get this, because it's been such a good investment. But it's not brand specific. But these little pouches have definitely worked out for me, just based on how many road trips we've taken in this past year. And this brings me to number 10. Number 10 is all about sub boxes. I have learned in the last year that some sub boxes are really not for me. I think I talked about this extensively on this channel. Part of it was a comparison that I've done between the cloth and paper sub box to the Infinite Lotus sub box. The Infinite Lotus sub box has been the most useful and functional for me personally. And even though I'm not as heavily using a ring bound planner at the moment, I'm slowly making my way back into adding that into my rotation, just based on how functional it was. Unfortunately, I can't say the same for my cloth and paper sub box. I really have learned that for me personally, anything and everything that I was receiving was no longer as valuable as I felt like it should be. You know what I mean? So we've talked extensively about the sub boxes, and sometimes sub boxes can be really hit and miss. Unfortunately, I'm yet to see really one, that especially journaling ones, that really wows me. So, but it was one of those things where it's really great when you kind of go down that rabbit hole and really learn that about yourself. Number 11, if the paper quality isn't up to your standards, please switch books. And it's almost like it's that simple. For me, I gave myself the opportunity to try out the Moleskine little pocket size notebook, and oh my gosh, did I love that whole setup. That I really loved everything about this, except for the fact that the paper was paper thin. Like, it was so thin that unless I was using like a Muji pen, everything was ghosting. And I will show you an overlay here so that you can see exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, that's sort of where the preference in paper kind of comes in, because a lot of it depends on the type of pens that you're going to be using and the type of inks that you're going to be using. I have learned, especially from a pocket size notebook or like a smaller notebook, something that is on the go, it needs to do well with pens, especially pens that have a richer ink flow. It's just that simple. And it shouldn't matter if it's a fountain pen ink or if it is a gel pen. If there's bleed through, it's probably not going to work for you. Number 12 has to do with, it's sort of like a multi-layer issue that kind of leads me into what I learned about how I actually consume stationery items. But I have learned that when I create a routine that involves certain planners and certain planner systems, so if I set aside time in my day to use certain planner systems, I'm more likely to use it, which sounds very logical and obvious, but it's not logical until you actually put it into practice. So I found that if in the morning, the first thing I do after having a coffee and I wake up, if my morning routine involves updating my Hibino planner and my 5-year journal, more than likely I will consistently stick with it. I usually have a section in my Hibino where I add in little quotes and things like that, which also forces me to actually go and read something so that I have that quote. So it's kind of like it's building good habits on top of good habits, but a lot of that starts with creating a good routine first. So I didn't realize that I didn't really create like these small routines that would involve me actually utilizing the tools that I have, and a lot of it was just missing a level of structure. So if you are struggling with that, then maybe add some sort of a routine into your day-to-day practice and see if that changes how much you're actually utilizing the planners and the journals that you have. This is all I have for you. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. If you did, you can give it a thumbs up. You can subscribe if you haven't had a chance to already. And here is your question of the day. Give me one thing that you have learned that was your main takeaway for 2024 while using your planner and journaling system. I would love to know, and let's connect in the comment section. Okay, you guys, I hope you have a wonderful day. Just keep planning, keep journaling, keep doing all the things. And I cannot wait to see you in my next video. Bye.